you can't be a successful leader in any genre on your own. And so being able to connect and communicate, shout, your vision for your life and, what you want to do and be and create from the rooftops is okay.
Hello and welcome to Proud to Be You, the official alumni podcast of Boston University. I'm your host, Jeff Murphy, and I'm so glad that you've tuned in. Our guest today is Mary Alice Stephenson, a College of Communication alum who rose through the ranks of the fashion industry, becoming fashion director, editor, and stylist for publications like Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. Mary Alice spoke with me about moving from the peaks of the fashion industry to founding a nonprofit called Glam for Good, an organization that provides clothing and personal care items to hundreds of thousands of Americans in need.
Proud to Be You showcases the journeys of some of Boston University's most interesting and accomplished alumni. Inspiring grads share the highs, the lows, and the challenges they have overcome along the way, from COM ‘90 to innovative careers. No matter where your path takes you, proud to be you.
Mary Alice, super glad to have you here on the Proud to Be You podcast. I am going to ask you a million questions about your life, but I think the right place to get started is in talking about the organization that you're running now. Such an incredible organization, Glam for Good. Can you tell us a bit about the mission, how you decided to found that organization, and some of the cool things you've been working on?
Sure, absolutely. First of all, thank you, Jeff, for having me. I'm so honored to be here. And Glam for Good. I mean, the idea was birthed right there on the BU campus so many years ago. Glam for Good repurposes unused merchandise from some of the world's biggest fashion and beauty brands and directs it to, instead of being in landfills and incinerators, directs it to Americans in need. There's 37 million plus Americans living in poverty. 39% of Americans can't afford basic necessities. Yet there's this surplus of inventory in the fashion and beauty brands have in their warehouse spaces that is unused merchandise that they, don't put back on the shelves. And it's just sitting there. And 17 million tons a year ends up in landfills and incinerators, which hurts our environment. And so Glam for Good was really born to take that excess and give it to Americans that need it, really. It just, after being in the fashion industry for 25 plus years and seeing all this excess, and also doing a lot of humanitarian work, I just thought, this is crazy. This is a no-brainer. Take the excess and give it to help people.
One of the reasons I love it is because it has so many angles. You're supporting people in communities who need it. There's this environmental waste angle that you're addressing. And I know that all comes from a long and successful fashion career that you had. But you mentioned, I forget how you said it, but I'm curious to know, I think you told me you grew up in Michigan. Did you have people in your life that were sort of always helping you to think with a social impact, social justice lens on? I know you mentioned the idea was born at BU, but has that been something throughout your life?
I think that my family, my father is a doctor and my mother was a teacher. So just in general, growing up in a household of service absolutely informed my thinking. But I also think that being in the college, the university environment of Boston University, where there's so many people giving on a regular basis, the teachers that you are with every day, all day long, the guidance counselors, the teams are so giving. And I just think that have been lucky in my life to be surrounded by and empowered by so many people. And, it opens your heart to wanting to do the same for others, right? So at the height of this big career in fashion, as the fashion editor and director of magazines like Vogue, Allure, Marie Claire, and Harper's Bazaar, that was my passion, but somehow it wasn't enough. It was like, how can I be of service to help people? And I think that came from all the people that helped me in my journey growing up through college and then to New York.
Like I said, I've got tons of questions for you about your career in media and publishing and fashion, but I do want to hear more about your time at BU. One of the things you'd also told me is that your family has this long line of University of Michigan and I think Michigan State folks. How did you end up at BU? How did you buck the trend in your family?
Honestly, I wanted to go to New York for college and my father wouldn't let me. So Boston, I was actually someone that just wanted to go out into the world and be an entrepreneur. I chose Boston first before, and I was lucky enough to go to Boston and tour many schools in the Boston, greater Boston area, and fell head over heels with Boston University. What I saw, Kenmore Square, just being able to take the train to everywhere I needed to go shopping, in downtown Boston on Newbury Street, the parks, the South End. I mean, I fell madly in love with not only the city, but how Boston University is wrapped up in the city, and how it knocked me alive when I went to visit. And I knew that was the feeling that I wanted to feel throughout my years studying at a university.
Awesome. I still feel that way about Boston after all these years too. So you came in, and I know you graduated from COM. Were you jumping right into communications class?
I didn't get into COM. I was the type of for admissions, I put it all out. I was a girl that had mediocre grades, but was involved in a lot of incredible things in high school. So I can vividly remember, thinking, am I going to get in? And I applied to College of Communications, and I was diverted to College of General Studies at that time. It's now called College of Basic Studies. It was called College of Basic Studies.
Right. Now it's called College Studies. Everybody calls it CGS.
Right. CGS. And so initially I wanted to absolutely go into the College of Communications, and ended up at CGS. And probably the best thing that could have ever happened. I felt it gave me kind of a broader education on things that were really important. I knew what I was passionate about, which was communications and media. But I actually think my time at CGS was critical for me, because sometimes it's the things that don't come as easily to you that you really do need to know to have a successful career, right? So I think that was, and it allowed me to explore a little bit into art history and other things. And I actually ended up then moving into College of Communications and double majoring COM in art history.
Oh, interesting. I didn't see the art history part. Yeah, the CGS story, it's amazing. I've been at BU for, I think, many years. And I honestly think that pretty much everybody I've ever talked to who graduated from CGS feels that way about it, that it's this incredible program. So that's awesome that we were able to talk about that for a second. All right. So now your time in COM, tell me a little bit about what your thoughts, your intentions are for careers. I don't know, junior year, senior year, do you start doing a bunch of internships? Are you already thinking about, the types of jobs that you're looking for after you graduate?
I think, coming from a small community and growing up in a small community and going to Boston University, being surrounded by such possibility, and at College of, at COM, it really was like the professors, the support staff, the students, it was just like being in a room with windows, being surrounded by windows, and they were all open. And it was like, this is the land of the possible, which is anything you put your mind to. And I think for me, I started engaging in activities outside of school. I started a modeling agency. I started kind of a, weekend dance initiative, self-expression initiative. I was interning. I was at a PR firm. And while I was studying, and it was just, I think it was just being surrounded by so much possibility and people that didn't see barriers or borders, but they saw, they believed in you as a student, that anything was possible with determination and grit and being open-minded. And I never felt that pressured to make any decisions about what, even at College of Communication, it was just, let us educate you, let us empower you. There's so many options and so many directions. The more you know what could be, the more you can do, and I think that's really from my entire experience from CGS to COM. It was just, I just soaked it all in. And I realized, like, just anything is possible, and I didn't have that attitude when I first went there, because I grew up in a smaller community,
Yeah.
but, surrounded by such incredible educators and students from all over the world. I mean, the student population is so inspiring to be around so many incredible young people from all walks of life with such diverse ways of thinking about things. And it just is, it opens your mind, and it's incredibly powerful place to go to university.
Yeah. The other day we were chatting and you had said, I think if I'm remembering correctly, that one of the things you left BU with was courage. Is that what you meant when you said you got out of here and felt like, I can do this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think having courage to, really tap into your heart and what drives you, and experience things to explore that, instead of go into kind of what others expect of you, or I think courage to press, push at boundaries and barriers. A lot of that came really from my experience at Boston University, because, this is in the 80s. At that time, as a young woman, more opportunity was opening up, thanks to the women before us, to be leaders, to be CEOs, founders. And my time at Boston University even opens that up more to me, the possibilities of driving change in whatever industry I wanted to pursue, that there were no barriers, that really it was up to me. And the school really gave me tools to take steps to move forward. And that takes courage, I think. And I think that's just a great, without telling people what you need and what you want to do, you can't be helped. I mean, that's one thing that I learned, to find my voice when I was at BU, to really find my voice. It's 4 years to explore who you are, what makes you happy, what knocks you alive, and how to verbalize it too, especially at COM, how to tell people what you need so they can help you. And in business, I mean, that's kind of the #1 rule, and in philanthropy. And so it was awesome. I could go on and on, as you can tell.
I appreciate that. So you graduate, and then what happens? You go immediately, do you go to New York and you're immediately working in fashion magazines?
My last senior year at BU, I remember talking to, I think he's retired now, Professor Wiseman. And I remember I said, I'm going to start applying to magazines in New York. And, I think the staff is also so supportive and helping you, and, go knock on doors, take this avenue. I mean, I really felt a lot of support in what I wanted to do, because I didn't know anyone in New York. I didn't know anyone in publishing. And so it was really the professors and other students that really was like, what's stopping you? Go for it. So the weekends I would take trains to New York City. I take a train from Boston to New York City. And as much as I could, on that Monday morning before I had to head back to class, I'd be knocking on doors. So I ended up getting a job. I was very lucky. And I still to this day appreciate her. Anna Wintour hired me as an assistant at Vogue. So she was a fan of Boston University. And I knew a lot about fashion because I had studied it so much. And I was not the typical like it girl. You know, a lot of people that worked at Vogue at the time were in New York. And so I was kind of like the Devil Wears Prada. I'm sure people see.
I didn't want to ask that question. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, it was like, you know, I came in, I was probably not that fashionable, but she liked my personality and energy. And so that was really my big break, getting into fashion, being around the excellence, you know, not unlike being at BU, the excellence of Vogue and the people that worked there was the caliber that was, you know, something that I became used to from my time at Boston University. So of course I would go to Vogue. Like it was no big deal. BU taught me to like, you know, reach for the best. And so, but I did not, that was cold calling at that time. That was not even, and that's what I would say to, and I talk a lot to students, both high school and college students. It was just reaching out, constantly reaching out to people, connecting, you know, head up instead of down on social media, like connect with people, tell them, you know, can you help me get a contact at this company, at that company? And that's really what I was doing. And all that pushing to be connected to finally find someone that got me into human resources at Condé Nast and up to Vogue.
Were you thinking of that as networking at the time? That's what we call it now, right? It's
networking, you know.
Go, ugh, but
yeah. I mean, I don't think that anything can get done without community around you, without networking, without, no one can, you know, you can't be a successful leader in any genre on your own. And so being able to connect and communicate, shout, you know, your vision for your life and, you know, what you want to do and be and create from the rooftops is okay. You know, that's, you know, I think that was critical. I learned to, as I said earlier, to speak out, speak up, move forward, and ask, like, you know, I'd love to come work with you. What can I do to get a meeting with you? And I was creative in how I did it at that time. Now it's easier, I think, with social media. Sometimes a lot of students will reach out to me on at Glam for Good on Twitter or Threads or Instagram, and they'll reach out. Then it was a little bit harder, I think.
This episode is brought to you by BU Connects, Boston University's exclusive online platform for alumni and student networking, mentoring, and more. Explore the profiles of nearly 30,000 Terriers and see how they're willing to help. Join groups to network with members who share your city, industry, or interests. Share advice or mentorship with students in need. Promote your business in the Alumni Business Directory, or find jobs posted by and for the BU community. Activate your free profile today at buconnects.com.
So right out of the gate, you're working in this incredible institution in the world of fashion and media. How long are you at Vogue? And, you know, I'm wondering, sort of, once you get those professional legs under you, you're working full time, then what does the plan look like for you?
I think the plan is at that time, really, when you first break in after college. So for everyone that's graduating this year and moving forward, you know, I think if you work hard, as hard as you can, and give your all with high integrity and grace and total commitment, people that are in higher positions, you're an asset, right? So because I gave it my all, I was an asset. And so people kept hiring me for other jobs because I gave 100%. And I think any leadership role, anyone that I've talked to, entrepreneur that has founded a company, it's grit and determination and goodness and belief in belief in what you're doing at that time. It doesn't mean that, you have to believe that this is it for you. It's just, this is a step in the right direction. And being passionate about something, I think, is critical. If you don't, and even if you're working multiple jobs, which a lot of people do out of school, have one of those jobs be something that's heart-led, that you really feel good about it. And then I worked multiple jobs throughout my beginning career. Even at Vogue, I was, when I was in Boston going to university, I worked in retail all around the city. I just did a lot of different things, and even working in the fashion industry in New York. I did other jobs because you really didn't make a lot of money, but I think it's just committing, it's just committing. It's going for it and thinking, what, if I do this really, really, really well, right, and work really hard, right, people will see me and help me. And so I then moved to other magazines. So basically, in my 30s, I was around 35, I became fashion director of Harper's Bazaar, which was kind of a pivotal moment for me. And so I went to Vogue and Allure and Marie Claire, many fashion magazines, and then I resigned to go into philanthropy. So,
and that's when you started Glam for Good, or is that when you got really involved with? Because I know you've been an incredible supporter of the Make-A-Wish Foundation for a long time.
Yes, I was the national fashion ambassador, granting wishes for kids with life-threatening illnesses for probably about 15 years. And that experience, and that was while I was leading various magazines, and as fashion director, you're creating content and the visualization. So we're flying all over the world, going to the fashion shows, shooting the actresses that are on the covers of the magazines. And but through all that, I was working with Make-A-Wish, granting fashion-related wishes, and was so inspired by that. And I think was a critical moment. And I think everybody has that, where all of a sudden I realized that although I was really passionate about fashion, and it had been, incredible career, and I had given it my all, I wasn't fully, it wasn't service oriented, and in some ways could be a bit superficial, ridiculous sometimes, being, putting all that time and energy and attention into creating imagery that was ultimately read and then discarded every month. And so I always saw the reality of what fashion could also be negatively impact women, especially. And so as much as I loved it, I was like, there's got to be more, and my experience from Make-A-Wish inspired me to found the Glam for Good Foundation.
Tell me a little bit about the process of getting that up and running. I mean, I assume you have to identify a board, and obviously you're looking for funders. And what can you tell us that you know now about that process of launching this nonprofit organization?
What I learned is that, screw the process and just go for it. And as you go, the process will reveal. Like, I didn't know anything about being a philanthropist, or, I just knew that it was something that I had to do. It was a calling, and it was really something that I was led to do internally. I felt it was, and I saw all this excess in fashion and all this stuff being thrown out when it was perfectly usable clothing, like throwing out winter coats, winter boots, accessories, shampoo, conditioner, deodorant. Like, I didn't understand why all this excess was not being utilized when I saw so much hurt in the world and poverty and in our own backyard here in the USA. And so I did not know, I had no idea like how to run a nonprofit or even launch a nonprofit. And I actually just, went with the vision that I had, and I started doing initiatives and using my social media to empower them. And so I really do believe in the power of social to help you put forth your vision and your dreams. And we would do gatherings. So whether it was, 100 wounded warriors, that we heard were home because of their injuries. Different organizations would reach out. We did disaster relief after hurricanes. We had, 200 women that were breast cancer survivors. We would do these initiatives where I would just use all my skills that I developed in fashion and call in clothing, get all the, products that were needed to help people, get volunteers, get everybody together. And we would just go for it and give it all away. And as I was doing it, I was learning, what was needed for each group. I started learning the process and structure. So it was kind of, I say that a lot to young entrepreneurs. It's like, go with the heart first. Like, you may not know how you're going to get there, but if you feel it strongly, create it. And then you learn along the way, and people come in, gifts, happen, and people come into your life as you're creating it to help you. And so we first started as a grassroots movement in 2012, and it was Oprah, the Oprah magazine, our First Lady, Michelle Obama, United Nations. Before I even founded an NPO, I had done these grassroots movement, Glam for Good initiatives, these big pop-up shops, free pop-up shops of addressing clothing insecurity and self-care insecurity. And we would, pop them up, and then everything would be given away to our recipients. And I wasn't a 501c3. I wasn't official like CEO of a NPO. I was just me with my social media, with my community that I had connected with, and resources from an industry I'd spent a long time in doing it. And then all of a sudden everyone said, you should have a nonprofit, and slowly but surely I learned how to set it up and run a nonprofit. And I asked a lot of questions from a lot of people, even people I went to college with at BU that I'm still connected to. How do you do this? Will you help? And still am.
Yeah, the Glam for Good website, glamforgood.com, it's an incredible place to see all of the different kinds of organizations that you've supported and the different ways that you've done it. But on your Instagram, and you mentioned this for a second, I saw a picture of you and Michelle Obama together. Can you tell us more about what you were doing with the former First Lady?
Well, we did an incredible initiative at the White House that I was invited to participate in and moderate, and Glam for Good was highlighted. And it was with students across the country that Mrs. Obama, First Lady Michelle Obama at that time, handpicked with her team. And it was a panel of entrepreneurs, all, a lot of different people from all walks of life that were living in the United States and creating something that was their own. And so that was the first experience really talking about Glam for Good. And, I was not someone that sold a company and decided to, start a foundation. I was not a big corporate brand that could start a foundation. I was, a single mom who really didn't have a lot of tools, but had a great education and a great community around me. And I think the White House wanted people that were starting things against all, the odds, and to really illustrate that anyone, once with the right kind of outlook, determination, grit can start something that is meaningful to them. And so it was really great to talk about Glam for Good and present that to a lot of kids that had come from some challenging backgrounds. And that was the first time. And then we did a Glam for Good initiative in Italy together for active duty military women in active duty, for moms in active duty. And that was really incredible and very inspiring woman. And I'm really proud that she chose Glam for Good to be involved in what she was doing as a first lady. And I just have so much respect for her. And so that was really two highlight experiences for me, getting Glam for Good involved with the Obama White House, for sure.
Great. So if you're able to take a step back and think about all the amazing things that you've done, whether it was in your fashion career, now the way that you're supporting people and communities, is this your calling? Is this what you think your life's work is? Or, are there other projects that are still on your to-do list? Where do you think you're headed from here?
Well, I want to really focus on scaling Glam for Good. And right now we've given over $70 million worth of clothing and self-care from, landfills and incinerators, and given it to hundreds of thousands of Americans in need in 32 states. And I'm really proud of what we've been able to do in the last 8 years. And I know that we could quadruple that, right? So getting the tools and the teams around Glam for Good is right now what I'm focused on. And any students listening, faculty listening, follow us at Glam for Good. We've got a great website. We love your involvement, and it really does take a huge community to make a difference. And so that's my focus. We have a big give at Boston University in January with the Newberry Center. We're really excited about getting warm winter clothing to some students that might not have it right now and need it, because we know those Boston winters are pretty intense.
And you and I spoke about this the other day. There's this, in some ways, misconception that, our students are all incredibly wealthy people. And the truth is we have tons who, like you, need to work as, undergrad students and are, receiving tons of financial aid. Just to make this a diverse place. So it's awesome that you're partnering with it's the Newberry Center, and I think also the College of General Studies is involved in some way.
Newberry Center, and it's just, I think that listen, your Boston University community is ultimately a community of helpers, and the moment that I floated this idea, everyone on the team that I was speaking to was so excited by it. And, I think we all need help at different times in our life, and it's okay to ask for it, and it's okay to go get that help. And I think pride sometimes gets in the way. But I think it's really important, no matter who you are, what you've gone through, no matter what you're creating in life, being able to say, hey, can you get behind this? Can you help me? Is critical no matter what you're doing. So we're, as an organization, happy to start a partnership moving forward and help in any way we can with students coming in to the university that need some support beyond their education of personal essentials, and like water, like shelter, like food, clothing, and self-care products are equally as important to empower dignity and joy and opportunity. So we're happy to help and want to continue to do so. And so in the future, who knows, maybe I'll do something completely different. I think when you open your mind to possibility, and that is, and kind of ask the universe and people in that you're inspired by for direction or help, new ideas come. So hopefully we'll scale Glam for Good, and it will, be able to serve every state on a regular basis, and multiple Glam for Good gives at Boston University. And then who knows, maybe I'll come teach at BU.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to watch you scale this initiative, which is so important. And I want to thank you in advance for all the work that you're doing to support BU students and the way that you've supported the university. And it was just, frankly, really great to hear this whole story and how it came together. So thanks so much for spending time sharing it with me.
Of course, it's an honor. It really is. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Mary Alice. Thanks again to Mary Alice for joining me on the podcast. It was fascinating to hear about somebody who achieved so much success and then pivoted and founded a nonprofit organization that helps thousands of people. If you heard something today that makes you proud to be you, I hope you'll join me in making a gift to the BU cause that matters most to you at bu.edu/give.
Thanks for listening to Proud to Be You. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your episodes. The Proud to Be You podcast is produced by Boston University and our partners 5 Tool Productions, a BU alumni-owned, Boston-based company specializing in video production, live streaming, and content marketing. Our theme from Artist.io is Think About Lights by Ben Fox. All additional media in this episode has been shared by our guest. To learn more about Proud to Be You, visit bu.edu/proudtobu.